Welcome to Lift Your Story podcast with guest Katrina Roddy, bestselling author, entrepreneur, coach. Hi everyone, I'm Lorianne. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we welcome Katrina Roddy. She is a bestselling author, entrepreneur, coach, and we are so pleased to have you here. Thank you.
Hi, Lorianne and Roy. I am that guest.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, Katrina, it says in here that you were in corporate insurance for 30 years and got laid off. Now, was that due to COVID or no, it wasn't? Okay.
No, this was prior to COVID. This was maybe I'm going into my fourth or fifth year of being laid off. So, after being there for such a long period of time, at that point, I made a conscious decision that I didn't want to go back to corporate. So, no, I understand the corporate folks because when it hits, it hits.
Yeah. Well, I just wondered, if it was downsizing, was it COVID, was it both or whatever?
Yeah, it was down. It was definitely a reorganized organization. So if I can explain, I worked in corporate insurance, and I worked in a high profile area of corporate insurance where we dealt with a lot of what we call major accounts or national accounts. So these were the Costco's of the world we provided insurance for, Saks Fifth Avenue, Discover Card, these big clients. And because I've always been the youngest in my groups, there were 5 of us that were let go off the sales executive team, and 4 of them said, "Yay, I get to retire." And then there was one, I can't retire. And so at that point, that's when I made that decision that I was not going to go back to corporate.
Well, your book, Steal Your Skills from Corporate, which I think is interesting because I think most people, when they're doing their job, they don't really think they've got any skill sets other than what applies to their job they're doing. So they tie their skill into that job, not realizing they may have a marketable skill outside that job.
That is absolutely correct. You are, in essence, an apprentice all while you're working. And you're taking that knowledge and taking those skills and you're applying them to your everyday job, right? And your neighbor who sits next to you, maybe they do the same. They're not doing really the same job as you, but they have their own job. And the person across, everybody has their own job because that's what you were hired to do. But when you leave there and you start to realize, hey, I got something that, especially rolling into an entrepreneur, and that's part of my story as well. I realized very soon that I had other things that other entrepreneurs were seeking, such as I'd go to networking events, and naturally I knew how to network. I knew how to gather business cards, follow up immediately, all of these things. And then I knew how to budget. I knew when I needed to budget. I knew when I need to plan for the next year because I have been doing that for years. Mm-hmm. And I thought every person was doing that. So when I had a friend that would network with me, and I'm like, we gotta start working on our January plan. And it's like October. And he's like, what? And I said, well, you can't plan for January when you're in January. You got to do it in October because that's what I was used to doing at my job. And then it started to click. I have skills that other people are seeking. And these are things that I've learned in my corporate experience. And I just started sharing that with others.
Yeah. It's interesting, but I saw a guy way back, it was probably maybe 10 years, well, maybe 15 years ago. And when everybody was starting to become coaches and training and stuff, and in his job, he used Excel. I mean, he could anything with Excel. I mean, you talk about a master, oh my gosh, this guy could do anything. Well, he just didn't think that much about it. But people always ask him, hey, do you know how to do such and such? Do you know how to do such and such? And so finally, he sat down and he developed a training course for Excel on video. And then he would do like webinars, Q&As, how do I do this? And he would sell his courses, and he quit his job. He said he's doing it from home. He loves it. He's not having to go fight the traffic and do all the stuff, all the corporate.
Yeah.
And he said he had no idea. He said he thought everybody knew how to use Excel. I said, well, they do to a point, to a
Yeah.
small point, but not to the extent that you know how to use it. And so, and he's done quite well. And that's all he does is Excel.
Yeah. That's what makes it really interesting, because you can use anything that you had to do in your job is now not a skill that you've gained or you've had before you've gone in there. And I like to tell people too, my book is titled Steal Your Skills from Corporate, but I always get the question, what if I wasn't in corporate? What do I do? What if I wasn't, how can I address those things? We have skills, whether we know it or not, that come from life, and I like to say at one point, I was a swim mom, so I know this. If your kid is in sport and you're a home mom and your kid is in sport and you've been responsible for, let's say, the transportation to the next thing, you have to resource the transportation or the concessions or whatever. Those are your skills. Use it. They've asked you to do these things for a reason, because they know you are good at it, or they know that this is something that you can pick up and will be good at. So use those things to create your own business. Your friend is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
He does Excel without thinking about it. I do Excel and think about him.
So
it's kind of funny. This is a little bit off topic in a sense, but I went from being an entrepreneur to becoming an employee.
Really?
And I found that while I was in that environment, what a different mindset I had. So I went from owning my own auto repair shop to working for a dealership. And I would look around and the employees weren't looking at things the same way as I was. Oh my goodness, make sure you turn off turn down the AC, turn off the, like I was worrying because I knew how much it costs to run a business.
Yes.
Whereas other people who are just employed, and I don't mean to put it down, but there is a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize, they might say, well, they have the money, they own the business. For everything that they're being overcharged because you're not doing due diligence, could be a job gone.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you said that, because it really is a mindset, and to take that shift of mindset. So think about someone like me who's had a W-2 or an employer mindset for my entire career. Some people's lifespan, I've done that, right? And so to go from that, where you've been told what time to come in, what time to eat, what time to get dressed, what friends to have, what clients to have, what time you're going to come back tomorrow, how much time to spend with your family. You've been told that. You've been given a title all that time. When you become an entrepreneur, when you first start, you think you're on vacation because you have all this time. And then all of a sudden you're like, I have to do something. And I tell people, especially if you're coming from corporate, you're a high performer there. You're not going to stop as an entrepreneur. You're going to continue to be an entrepreneur and have a high profile, but you have to be able to shift that mindset. Here's a funny story. I came out of corporate. Initially, I started off as an independent contractor. So I thought that was my natural progression. And so I started working for this company, and this is before the mind shift started to happen, the mindset shift. And so they would ask me to do these things and come in at this time. And I was like, who do they think they are? I don't need to do that. Do they know what I used to do in my other job? Quite frankly, they don't care.
No.
They don't care. So it's up to you to have that mindset. And I talk about this, and it's very, it could be traumatic. It can be very traumatic to try and make that switch. You have to be able to humble yourself when you become an entrepreneur. You have to be able to take on other jobs that maybe you didn't like when you worked in an environment. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to do the things, and that's where the shift comes in. My company is called the Corporate Breakup, because I truly coach on the mindset that it takes to transition from all of the things I talked about before to doing it on your own. How do you shift? The same way you were thinking, Lorianne, when you walked into a place and you had an entrepreneur mindset, and it's hard to shift back into an employer mindset because like you said, you are thinking about what do they have to do? You're very conscious about what's going on and very mindful about it. So that shift is hard to make. And I help people through that. When you break up from a corporate environment, you're going to go through some anger, some sleep disturbances, some anxiety is the biggest one. And you just need to know how to get out of that before you can move on to the next job. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, like me, I had a company at one time, but when I worked for somebody else, my work was production oriented. You had to produce or you weren't there. Okay.
Okay.
So, and I'm thinking, would I write this guy a paycheck with my money? That's how I viewed it. These guys,
Yeah.
hey, this guy's not worth killing. He's out of here. Because I wouldn't write a check to him.
Yeah.
So, and I felt I had the mindset of the owner of the company. If this was
Yeah.
my money, no, I wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
So,
That's good. That's good.
and stuff I did, I always thought, all right, this is going to benefit the company, because in the long run, I always felt like that if the company did good, I would do good.
Yeah. That's what you feel like.
Yeah. So,
It doesn't always work out that way, but if you have that feeling, and that's probably what kept me in it so long. I felt I was doing very well. I was promoted a few times, and I actually corporate paid for my college. So like all of these things were happening along the way. And, when I started off in corporate, I tell people this all the time. I graduated high school in June. I started my corporate job in July. There's no break. There's nothing. Imagine I'm going to college, and one of my courses is that job that I just have to go to in the morning before I come to school. And they would report back to my school, how is she dressed? How is her business? How is she adapting to the environment? And they would report this back to my school because that was my business class. My business class was a job. And after they did all of these things, and you start to get excited. You get excited, and you're running along the same as your friends. You're in your 20s, and guess what they told you? If you come in early and stay late, you're going to go straight to the top. Well, that didn't really happen. But we believed it, and you worked that way because that's what your peers were doing. Everybody was doing the same thing. And then when you turn 30, you start having families, and that's where work-life balance really made sense. And you had to make some determinations if you were going to do that, or for me, I traveled 70% of the time. It was a lot. And you were living out of suitcases, but you were going, and again, everyone was doing the same thing. And then you get tired of that. And now you're in your 40s, and now you're seeing people being shifted around, being laid off, and you're like, wonder what would happen. You start to think about those things. Well, because I worked in such a high profile area of corporate insurance, we really thought, if I'm being honest with you, we thought we were untouchable because we brought in the most money to the company. Once again, to Roy's point, we felt like we were doing the best job there was. But then the company shifted and said, hey, we're going to take a new approach to this. So just think of like all of these things that I had to go through while working in corporate, and how my mind was like, okay, I have different perspectives from when the young people come in corporate until when you are ready to leave at a later age. So those are parts of my story that I stick with.
well, now, had you ever had any experience as an entrepreneur before you got laid off?
Yeah, but as a side hustle. So I didn't take it serious.
Yeah.
Or I would do something and not really know. I was helping my friend run his full-blown fitness business as a business coach, and not even know that I was his business coach. I'm like, oh, just do that. And it took one of our friends to say, people pay to get that stuff done, and you're using her for free. Oh. But yeah, so I worked as an entrepreneur, but just like side jobs. I'd do a little bit and then I'd quit. So I kind of knew I had a little bit of that spirit in me, but I just didn't know how to make that leap.
Well, everybody likes that security, that steady paycheck, and that 9 to 5 job, whatever. The security. I think that's
what they call it.
thing.
Yeah.
Is they don't want to give it, especially if you got a family.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I get it 100%. And this is not a call to tell people to quit their jobs or 9 to 5 is so bad, because I did well in it those years. But what it is there comes a time where you're just tired. So my clients that I get now, they've been tired. Maybe they've been laid off 3 or 4 times. And they're like, I'm not doing this again. I don't want to go through this again. There's so many people that I know that have skills and talent that they're afraid to use because they're like, I don't know what it looks like on the entrepreneur side. So my book, there's 8 steps in there. And I like to tell people, you could easily read the book, go through it on your own. You can do this on your own. But I ended up coaching with people because they could read, but they wanted to know, how can I have an accountability partner to know if I'm doing the right thing? How do I know this? How do I know that? And I take them through everything that I've learned, everything that I learned along the way. I shift it into making it their own, and it becomes a foundation for some people who are newer to entrepreneurship to kind of look at and go back as a toolkit and say, you know what, I should work on that, or I can work on that.
What's your most successful person that you've coached?
So it's interesting you asked that, because it was my very first coaching person. And I say she was the most successful because she already owned a business. Mm-hmm. And she just didn't know how to shape it. What do I do? So one of the things I kept asking her in the beginning is, what do you do? And she's like, well, I'm the president and founder of this company. And I said, okay, what do you do? She's like, well, I'm the president of this company. I'm like, well, what do you do? So we worked on her message, which is her story. And what she really wanted to do was become an engagement leader in the community and work with some of the lower income schooling here to get the parents. So another question I always ask while I'm coaching is, what problem are you solving? Her problem that she was solving was, there's a lot of schools that need the help of parents, but because the parents may not be professionally developed to work in the school environment, they need to be coached in that. They need to be helped with the professional development piece of it. So she became my most successful client, because this past weekend, she did exactly what we've been working on for her, which was, I need to be able to do professional development for the staff of schools as well as parents. And there was one school that called her, that kicked it off and said, we want to have a retreat. We have professional development dollars. So then she in turn hires me to come in to do speaking engagements at her event, so I can actually see the work that she was doing. And I was pretty excited, because that catapulted me into a different direction as well.
Cool. Now, did you ever have one client that you had a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance from?
Yep. Absolutely. Can't have a business without that, right, Lorianne? If you're going in to train, you got to train hard. But you know what I say to those individuals, and you can tell right away, Roy, when I start to talk to them and take them through my process, just the interview process to get started, they may miss the time. They may miss the date on the calendar, the meeting. And I'm like, I'm going to be with you for 8 weeks. If you're missing now, you're not going to stay. You're going to like that. So what I say is, people who have one foot in the door of corporate and one foot out because they think they want to leave, I can't really work with them that well. Well, I haven't worked with them that well. I'm not going to say I can't work with them, because they're not 100% ready. I got pushed. So some of these people are actually quitting, and she had one foot in and one foot out. And she's like, I don't know if I can make the time. Well, what time? Well, what happens if I have to? It was too many questions. And I'm like, I kindly said, you're not ready. We're not going to be able to work together until you're 100% ready.
Yeah.
The pushback is real.
well, making that leap is hard.
Yeah. Yes, it's extremely hard. And I say this over and over. I got pushed out. So that was my way of saying, look, what are you going to do? And to be quite honest with you, I started interviewing at other corporations after that. There were people, some of my competitors were seeking me out. And there was one particular interview I started right out the bat. They drugged me along for 7 months. without hiring me. The person would come in town and we'd go to dinner, we'd interview more, we'd talk to different people in the company. I did this for 7 months. And at the end, she's like, oh no, we're going to hire somebody intern. I'm like, you just needed a friend then at that point.
I was going to say, she either needed a friend, or if it was a guy, he was probably trying to.
She just needed a friend. When she come in town, she needs someone to have dinner with, I guess. I don't know. But they ended up, and that's what really pushed me over. I'm like, I'm getting ready to go through this again, because that's what corporate does. You know, they'll flip on you on a dime. And so I said at that point, nah, I don't want to do that. I'd already promised myself by the time I get to a certain age, I was going to be leaving anyway. And I just took that leap before that.
Yeah.
But that's a good question. Good question.
Well, because I knew a friend of mine's wife, she went through the same thing. It was only 4 months though, but it was always, yeah, I'm going to interview with this person. Then I got to interview with this person. Yep. Then I got to interview with this group of people. And I mean, and, you know, it looks like, oh yeah, probably the first of the month, we're going to probably bring you on board, you know, and it's all just, and then finally she said, look, I just need a yes or no because I've got to move on. Well, yeah. I think we're going in a different direction.
See, I know, tell her, I feel her pain. It's just, I don't know. I thought it was rude, and you know, it just sticks with you. Yeah. Because you're like, why would you take me through? I was flying to places. These people were flying in. I'm like, Roy, you're going to get kicked out of this. Some of the people I had interviewed with early on had quit the job before I even got through with my interview. I'm like, what do you mean they left? So anyway, yeah, that's probably what pushed me over the edge to say, you know what, I really don't want to go through this again. I've been doing it since I was 18. So.
Well, there's a certain stigma though, I was going to say. I think that, yeah, if you're forced out, it really almost is a great chance to do what you want to do at that point. Yeah. But the other side of it though, let's say you're in your 40s or your 50s, that's a really hard thing to walk away from, because if you go and you do it and businesses fail, mine did, it's to get a job again. And it's a lot harder when you're older to get a job. There's a mindset they want the younger people, even if you have all this experience. So,
yeah. Well, that's a double-edged sword, because a lot of companies are trying to push you out at that age. Yeah. So they're going through changes. And what I say is that for individuals, because those are you're talking about my clientele now, like they're in their 40s and 50s. And what they do is they take those skills and become consultants now. Or they become, you know, coaches and consultants, and they start that way. And I'm giving them foundation to do things. These are jobs that they've worked in for a long time. And now the same way they bring someone in a corporation for you to sit and train, now you're doing it and you're making money because you're coaching people to do that. So it is hard. It is hard to make that transition, but the joy that they get out of it. So I've had an individual, she's a chef, who was a client of mine, but she knew the business side of it really well. And so now she coaches other people on the business side of it. I have a young lady who worked in the higher education her entire career. And now she coaches parents and help their kids get through that college process. These are things that they've been doing in their jobs, and it's more fulfilling to them because they've been doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's the part. And, you know, as far as failing, if you don't do it, you don't know. And I like to say the universe is very balanced, right? So it has to be two things. And one thing that I coach on is the what if theory. A lot of people will come and say, what if I fail? What if I don't do this? What if I don't do that? What they don't understand is that on the other side of what if is, what if I succeed? What if I do have enough fans? What if I do enjoy this? And you just have to look at it both ways. They come to me thinking that I'm going to help them pull their skills that they need to get to their next career. But what they end up getting is help with the fear of transition, because that's really what it is. It's the fear of transition.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting you were talking about age, you know, and it is, the older you get, the harder it is. But, you know, for me personally, the older I got, the less BS I wanted to put up with.
Bingo.
That was my deal. I don't need this. As a matter of fact, it got so bad, my last 3 years before I retired, I took a 50% cut in pay to go to work for a company that I would be happy at.
Yeah.
And those last 3 years they were so much better than the 3 years if I'd have stayed at the other company. even though I was
Yeah.
making less money. I was happier, and it was worth it to me.
Happier. Yeah.
Sense.
Yeah.
That's a great point. The older you get, the less BS you want to put up with. I mean, I am a testament to that as well. And earlier in my career, I'm like, all right, well, that's what happens. When I got later on, my mouth is ratchet.
Yeah. I go, no, I'm not doing it. What do you
Yeah.
mean I'm not doing it? I'm not going to do
Yeah.
it.
That's
I'm not doing it. It's stupid.
Yeah. I had towards the end, I had people say, well, you need to get here at 6. I'm like, oh, why? They're like, well, most of our, really good consultants, they get here at 6. I was like, good for them. I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to keep up with them. I'm trying to keep up with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Here, have a cookie. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, but yeah. So Katrina, how can our listeners reach out to you for help?
So I am on all social media platforms as KRoddy65, KRODDY 65. And then you go to my website. The name of my company is The Corporate Breakup, and that's my website, thecorporatebreakup.com.
And your book's available where?
On my website, on Amazon, on everywhere you go. They're Stealing Your Skills. But yeah, you can find it on my website. If you prefer to go to Amazon, it's downloadable, or you can get a printed copy on Amazon.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
This has been fun. I mean, I really enjoyed this interview. I really want to thank you for being our guest. It was a great.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Excellent.
Well, thank you
agree.
for allowing me on your platform. I appreciate it 100%.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being with us. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.